What is good, everyone? Welcome back on the channel. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you 4 essential techniques that you need in order to make your melodies stand out and sound professional. Now I've ranked these from easy to complex, so make sure you stay until the end of the video to get all the source. And now without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alright, so for the first technique I prepared this melody right here. It sounds something like this. Just pretty simple, pretty chilled vibe, just some R&B, nothing too complex. But actually for this kind of melody we want this simplicity, you know, we don't want this to be super complex, super hard. It just needs to be that simple. So we can't just, you know, take it and flip it into something else. That would destroy the purpose of the melody. So something we can still do in order to level up this melody big time is export out the whole melody. So, you know, just export it all as wave. I've already done that. And I'm just gonna drag this into the project. So we have the wave file. It should look like exactly the same than what we have in here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of these tracks. I'm just gonna mute them because we don't need these anymore. We have the master file right here. And I'm also gonna go over to the master channel. And in case I have any effects on there, so for example right here I have this compressor, I'm just gonna delete them because they're already baked into this file as well. And now what we can do is we can open this up in the sample editor and we set this stretch mode to stretch. For example, we can pitch it up by 2, pitch it down, I think I preferred, you know, the pitched up version though, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. And then what we can also do is we can actually, you know, change up the tempo of the project. So I'm thinking maybe like 186 instead of 180. Just make it a little bit faster. Maybe 188. Yeah. Now one question you may ask yourself is, why do we actually export it out as master if we're gonna change up the pitch and the tempo anyways? Like, why don't we just change it up inside the project? And the reason behind that is the type of sound that we want to achieve. So this is an R&B sample, or, you know, like a vintage sample. It would be the same for like soul samples, or, you know, any kind of thing that doesn't want to sound too clean. Because essentially what's happening when we pitch up this whole audio file and not just, you know, the individual audio tracks or MIDI clips inside your project, it's gonna create little artifacts that are like, you know, it just doesn't sound perfectly pitched up because of, you know, all the algorithms behind it. That's just how it works, and it's gonna create that little imperfection, that little texture. That's something we actually want in this kind of melody. Might not be something we want, for example, for a pop loop or for something that has to sound super clean. But if you have like R&B or vintage loops, it's definitely a great way of achieving that. So yeah. Alright, so the next technique that I'm going to show you is going to be super cool if you've never used it before. And that's using phrases and melody layers. So I have this melody idea right here. It sounds cool, but it's definitely unfinished. By the way, this is all one single analog app preset from the pedal sessions kit from Karl Stamberger. Superfly kit, can highly recommend it if you want to check that out. But yeah, it's essentially just a preset and the bass sound underneath it. Now this is definitely unfinished, so you could flip this into a beat, but you would probably need like 1 or 2 more cool sounds in order to make this stand out. And this is exactly where phrases come into play. So it's something like this. You know, basically just like single ideas that you can use in order to sparkle up your melody. Alright, that sounds fire. That's probably gonna work. And now we obviously gotta make sure to tempo stretch it, so we are at 140 BPM. Right there. I think this will also sound cool if we can like pitch this down, like 1 octave. And then we can also chop this up and only use like half as often, so we can basically remove these 2 parts. And then we can also get like some more stuff, maybe some pedal stuff actually. Oh, this sounds hard. And it's even at like 140 BPM, which is cool. Just FL Studio isn't resampling it the right way, which sucks, but here we go. And just like that, we have turned a pretty basic and kind of boring melody. You know, that just consists of the chord and the bass, into something way more interesting that has like instant character and is straight up ready to use. Now, by the way, the sound clip I'm using right here is the new drop on Deluxe Sounds, which is called The Architect. And this is actually a completely free kit. So I've put together a bunch of sounds that were either recorded from, you know, my hardware synths right here, or from real instruments, or a few of them are also from VSTs. I've put them all together in a kit. It's over 150 sounds. They're completely royalty free. Yeah, just check it out and download the stuff you want. Alright, so for some of you all, this next tip might sound super self-explanatory, but it's key, at least when it comes to making realistic samples for real instruments. So I've loaded up a piano patch right here. Sounds something like this. You know, just good old piano, sounds clean. So I'm gonna create a MIDI clip right here. I'm just gonna draw some notes in, make some chords. Super simple chord progression like that. Doesn't sound trappy at all, but you know, just to get my point across, it doesn't sound realistic. Like, even if we would put in some super dope chords in here, it wouldn't sound realistic. Actually, putting cool chords in is the first step though. So something you can do, as you can see, these are super basic chords, you know, just the usual formula: 1, skip 2, set another one, skip 3, set another one. There you have a minor chord. Do the opposite and you have a major chord. Simple as that. A lot of you all know this probably, but something you can also do is just, you know, highlight one note and like pitch it up an octave or down an octave. These are gonna take a chord from being like a standard minor or major chord to something that's a lot more like complex and more jazzy sounding. So this right here is this classic, you know, minor chord. We have 1, skip 2, skip 3, and then skip another 2, and we'll get this. And if I add this like as a note in here, and in here as well, it's just gonna give it that, you know, more jazzy and soulful feel. You don't want to add this on every single chord, but it can be cool. Same goes for diminished chords. So basically what that is if you have a chord like this, which is a minor chord, and then if we just have that middle note and we put it down 1, so it's just giving so much tension and so much like interesting vibe to the melody. I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but it's definitely a valuable option. Now, besides this, what else can we do to make this melody sound more interesting? As you can hear, if I play it on the keys, I'm slightly strumming the notes. So what we can do is actually like select the notes of a chord like that. I'm gonna make them a little bit shorter. And what we can do right here is go down here and select strum or Alt S. And because of like this, we can actually strum these notes. So basically the highest note is gonna be a little bit, you know, set back from the next highest note, and so on and so forth. So something like this. Velocity is another great way of controlling the dynamics and the feeling of your, you know, sound. Because a lot of these like real instruments, for example, like piano or an E-piano or strings, all of these are programmed to have different loudness on how hard you press the key. And the harder I press it, the louder it gets. And that's controlled by velocity. And with these like realistic instruments, it doesn't only control the like overall volume of the sound, but also the tone. So the like loud note with higher velocity is also gonna sound a lot brighter, which is just, again, there to, you know, make it a bit more interesting and give it like that realistic feel, that as if somebody really played this. So just gonna use the strum tool like that. Strum, and again right here you can use the velocity on a strum tool so that the highest note has also the highest velocity. Accept. And we're just gonna do this for all of these chords. So let's drum again, except maybe this one we're gonna do a little bit less drumming, actually, like that. And then a little bit more for this one again. And then just a tiny bit for this. And then we also want to make this velocity be a lot softer. So we're gonna select all the notes and we're just gonna, you know, draw them a lot quieter actually. And as you can see, with the chords that are lifting up, so they're basically walking up the scale, I also increase the velocity so that, you know, for each chord it's gonna be a little bit higher from there. Again, just a little trick in order to amplify this uplifting feeling a bit more. This is not only the most complex tip or like the most complex techniques you can use, but it's also the most important, at least what I feel like. And that is adding a B section to your melody. So I've opened up the project that we just had with the second tip again, where we used the accents. And even though this sounds super fire, if we just have this on loop for like 3 minutes with a beat playing underneath it, it's not going to sound interesting and good. Like, it's gonna get boring pretty fast. Basically what you need to do, at least if you're serious about making melodies and you want to send them out and get placements, is always, literally always add a B section to your melodies. So basically this would be our A section. And, you know, if we give the producer the stems, he can rearrange this a little bit already and like make different sections. Well, for example, he just takes away this stuff and he just has the chords. And he already has a B section. We're going to take this a step further and like actually create a completely new section that still follows the same bass notes, the same chord progression, maybe has some of the elements still in there, but actually brings like new and more interesting elements to this whole composition. So there's just a lot more variation that the producer who's going to flip this can choose from. Now, something super basic you can do that can count as a B section is essentially just adding halftime. So it's not a real B section, but it's definitely in the beginning, you know, so definitely has a different texture, different tone. So that's cool already. I don't think it's the best fit for this melody personally though, so I'm just gonna remove it again. Something we can also do that I'm gonna do right now is just add like a new instrument, like another layer. So I'm just going to go in and load up another instance of, where is it? Fraction, there we go. And I'm just gonna go to some of the leads. Sounds like that. And then what I think would sound super dope on the sound is some sort of delay. So let's just add some processing. The delay tape. Damn, that's hard. I think I want to reuse this accents that we had before. But this is taking up, you know, the kind of like lead space that we just filled up with the new lead as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the sample unique and I'm going to send this to another mixer channel. So maybe like track 6. And then in insert 6, I'm going to add halftime. And then the last thing that you can do that can make your melody stand out as well and also make for a great B section is to add some sort of like either crazy plugin VST or like otherwise add some movement. So for example, again, I have this S-Pulsar VST. Sounds something like this. So it's just going to add that, you know, whole pulsing vibe to this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a automation clip for the on-off, like for this plugin. So it's gonna be turned off for the first half, and then right here in the second half, it's going to come in at 100%. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. Definitely let me know in the comments what you want to see next. And if you need some free sounds, just check out Deluxe Sounds, links in the description. And yeah, with that being said, hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.